Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be reviewing another race quad. This is a little 76mm LANCHI FPV racer. It's basically a little brushless racer, carbon fiber. I've been kind of sidetracked from racers for a while. I want to get back into it. I've been doing a lot with DJI's more smart products and larger quadcopters like GPS quadcopters, but I really miss doing racing products. So today's going to be an unbox, inspection, setup, and flight test all in one of the little mini 76mm LANCHI monster race drone. So let's get started. Okay, cool. So this version is an FR Sky version. I'm going to be binding it up to the Taranis QX7. So perfect. It already has the receiver and everything. Okay, if you can manage to get the top off of this box, here is the little LANCHI. Here's the instruction manual. You guys can pause that if you want to check out what it has here. It is a 76mm wheelbase, and it takes 2S battery, brushless little mini quad, and just real simple instructions here on how to do everything. Of course, it's going to help you a little bit if you have a little bit of experience with these guys. But all I should need to do is connect it to Betaflight on my computer and just make sure everything's configured just like normal, and everything should work fine. So they give you 2 extra sets of propellers. You can see that these are tiny little, what are these, 1.6 inch 16 by 30 propeller. So they give you 2 sets, and there's also a set already installed on the drone. And speaking of the drone, let's take this thing out of the box and see what it's all about. So it comes in this styrofoam packaging, packaged very well, by the way. And look at this little guy. So is that an Armatan insignia? Wow. Maybe Armatan is making frames for these guys, or maybe they're just copying, but check this out. So true carbon fiber, that looks like to be about, is that 2mm? And here are the motors here, a little LANCHI branded 1104 8000 kV motors. So these things are gonna have some pep to them. There is our FPV camera, nice tucked away and guarded in there. Looks like it's gonna do very well. It's kind of a preset, looks to be about maybe 30-degree pitch on there, and it doesn't look like you can really adjust the pitch, so maybe we'll just leave it for what it is. But here is the VTX. In the instruction manual it said this is what? This is a 25 milliwatt 48 channel 5.8 gigahertz VTX on the camera. And check this out, it's got a beeper built into the back, so that's awesome. Usually on these small ones it's hard to find ones with beepers, but now the companies are finally catching on and putting beepers on there. A couple of bright LEDs on there as well for lighting purposes. There's our micro USB jack for programming in Betaflight, a little JST connector, and this will take a 2S battery, which is included in the package. Wow. Let's continue on with the unbox here. So I'm seeing nothing written on the battery. There's a 2S balance port and a JST. And let's see if they say what the battery is in the instructions. 7.4 volt, 500 milliamp, 20C battery. So that should get this thing up and going. Probably want to stick with what they give you in the box, or a very similar battery, maybe with a higher C rating to give you a little more power. That's it in the box. The only other thing is a little cheap USB charger with a balance port to charge that battery. It's going to take quite a bit of time to charge it through this, so if you do have like a hobby grade charger, go ahead and charge this with that. But that's all we're getting in the box. Just getting back to the quad here, looking underneath. It's got nice carbon fiber throughout. The whole frame is carbon fiber, obviously. And there is just one of these little battery straps here to put in your battery. And then you're just gonna have to plug it in with this connector here. So to mount the propellers on the top, we are getting, there are 2 screws per propeller. Those things are not coming off. And we do have a pretty good bite there, 3-bladed props. Should get some amazing lift, even on 2S. And this thing is so tiny, it's gonna scream even on 2S. That's usually the case with these guys that have 3 props. But really digging it. It's got a really nice stack design. There's a little FPV antenna. It's just a singular monopole antenna for FPV. So you're probably gonna get some breakup when you go behind things. But some of them work well, some of them don't. We'll see how this thing works. So let me get this battery charged up, configure it on my computer in Betaflight, And let's get out there and fly this thing. There's really nothing to do on the bench except get my controller connected. So I'll just go ahead and do that behind the scenes because there's so many videos out there on how to connect through Betaflight. You'll have no problem finding one. So I'm not going to do that here. So we'll just cut straight to the park test video. I'll get some on-screen footage of my goggles. I'm going to be using probably a Fat Shark equivalent goggle like the Amways or something similar, and record that FPV stream, as well as I'll use the hat cam and probably do a line of sight flight and then pop on the goggles so you can see how it is in actual FPV. Cool guys, let's get out there and launch this little LANCHI monster. Alright guys, so let's give the little LANCHI monster a proper launch. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a line of sight. I'm using the QX7 again. We're in the park and it is a little bit windy. I must say it's between 5 and 10 variable right now, so not ideal. It's coming from all different directions. We're kind of in a little nook here where it's calm, but once I start flying, you can see how those trees over there are really blowing in the wind. It's like 10 or 15 over in the unshielded portion of the park. But anyway, we're going to do line of sight, and then we're also going to pop on the FPV goggles once we finish the line of sight. And at the end, if I feel up to it, I have a fully charged 3S little 450 milliamp hour battery. We're going to try to see if it runs on 3S, see if anything blows up, see if it can even do it. And before I start this little guy up, there's something you guys should know, just a quick little note. So basically, this is an FrSky version, so it has a little micro FrSky receiver already in here. But for some reason, they soldered the yellow wire here, the input wire, the signal wire rather, into the PPM input. That's the end over here. And so I could bind to my Taranis, but I couldn't get any input through the Taranis. So I had to desolder this little yellow one from the right hand side here and move it over to one over to the left, and that's the S bus. Once I did that, everything worked fine, so I just thought I'd mention that real quick. And also one more thing before we fly, the voltage, as the stock voltage settings were, the low voltage detection and the voltage readings were, it's like a 110 offset voltage, and for some reason with any battery I used, basically once I started flying, the low voltage beeper would just constantly beep through the whole flight. So I upped that amplification or the offset to 112, and I also downed the low voltage beep to like 3.3 volts I think, and that seemed to finish, you know, prevent the low voltage from beeping all through the flight, because that was pretty annoying. So alright, let's see how it does. Okay, so turning on the X7 transmitter and going ahead and plugging in the little LANCHI. Setting her on down. Basically, this is going to be my beeper, this temporary switch. You hear it beeping. This is going to be arming. And then all I have is these three flight modes are stabilize, horizon, where you can do flips, stabilize you can't do flips, horizon you can self-level and do flips, and then air mode, which is basically like acro mode, just a little bit different. So what I noticed with this one is when you start flying with the accelerometer engaged in the first two modes, it starts to want to creep forward. So I couldn't figure out why that's happening, maybe some vibration or something. So I'm just going to go straight into air mode, and we'll start with that. First we'll arm here, and we'll go straight to air mode. Of course it's going to spin the propellers, and here we go. So this is how it looks close up. Maybe I will switch into just stabilize self-leveling mode and show you what starts to happen. It just starts to want to pitch forward, and then you got to keep pulling it back more and more. So before it does that, let's just do a punch from a hover to a punch now. Whoa, that was interesting. It seemed to shut off the motors because maybe it was pulling too much out of this battery, this stock battery. So keep that in mind. I have a few other batteries, so we'll test those. Full pitch forward. That's pretty quick. Just if you full throttle it, look what happens. Oh, it didn't do it that time. Maybe because the voltage was so high in the beginning, it had a fail-safe shut off or something. So now for some reason it keeps creeping forward, so when I let off the right stick, it wants to fly forward and to the left. And you have to either disarm it and rearm, or just switch into air mode. I just switched into air mode here. And let's see if we switch into horizon, if it still does that. Yeah, so it's still doing that. Well, let's try to do a flip in horizon, so a right roll. Yeah, wow, it's nice and quick too. Let's see what our yaw rate's like before it. Let me switch into air mode so it's not pulling so much while we're trying to do some yaw rate here. So these are all the stock settings. Here's a yaw. So the more you push your stick, the faster it gets. It's a pretty good yaw rate. Starting to get a low voltage already, so that's only, you know, a couple minutes of flight. Let's try a little couple low flips before we land it. Oh, disarm. Okay, it looks like no damage is done. I have a bunch of propellers too, so I'm going to unplug this, and that's just a short little line of sight flight. I think you can get the gist of how this thing is going to perform. I think this battery just might not have enough C rating. The batteries I have are 30 to 35. I think this is maybe a 20, and it just might not be able to deliver what these motors are demanding. So anyway, let's pop in another battery and get the goggles on. I'll record that FPV for you, and I'll have some in-flight commentary as well. And we'll probably be doing some crashing. Okay guys, so I got the LANCHI on, and since we don't have any circular polarization, I'm just going to use these stock monopole linear antennas that come with the this patch and this monopole that come with the goggles here. Let's get these guys on the face and see what this little guy can do. Wow, that is a nice, clear, colorful picture, that's for sure. So arming, and there we go. So we can see time sense armed, or voltage up at the top, time sense armed on the bottom left, right, and then we're in stability on the bottom left. Now I went ahead and set that in the settings in Betaflight myself. Switching into air mode, you see on the left it turns into air mode. That's great. We can see our voltage there. So let's see what we can do. Wow, it's feeling really good. Let's go through this goalpost. Woo! Awesome. Wow, it feels really solid actually. I haven't flown for a while. I'm super rusty, and look at this. Watch me crash right here. Do some rolls and stuff, see how fast it is. Okay, sweet. Let's go all the way across the park here. Wow, it's still very clear with these antennas. Look at this. And I have great coverage. There is an RSSI feature on here. I went ahead and turned it off, but I imagine you can put it on if you wanted to. Zipping through here. So it's been 1 minute and 13 seconds about. Forgive me, you know I'm a little rusty at flying race drones. Oh, of course. Whoa. Oh my goodness, it would have survived that if I kept going. Let's see what the damage is and just keep going. I might have to replace the battery, but I want to see how long this lasts. That was awesome. Okay, so just walking up on it. I didn't even turn anything off. Let's just see if we can continue to fly. Battery's a little loose. I'm just going to tighten it a little bit. Man, I nailed it into the... Oh yeah, okay, so we bent a couple of propellers. These two here, you guys can see that, are bent. Just those two. So I'm going to quickly just bend them back real quick. But it would have kept flying actually, to tell you the truth, after I hit that post. It looked like it was still okay and leveled out. I just wanted to keep going. I'm just going to stand up right here and fly. Now let's go for it. Back up to stability. Arming. So don't run into my feet. Down into air mode. Woohoo! I don't hear any beeps yet. 6.7 volts up at the top. Probably should be landing shortly. Wow. This thing is really fun actually. Pleasantly surprised. Oh, again. I hear a bent propeller. You hear that over my head? But it stayed up. This is a pretty durable I'm gonna land it. Oh, it's landing on its own. Okay, turning everything off. Let's go retrieve that, pop another battery and do some more. So this is what's cool about this beeper. Locking up on it, or wherever you are, hold this switch up and you can locate it. Of course, if you turn off the transmitter, let's see what happens. Okay, it'll also beep if you turn off the transmitter. So it's definitely going to be a durable one. I slammed pretty hard twice into the post. I didn't hit the metal post yet. I'd imagine by the time we're done with this I might, but that propeller is totally fine. This propeller bent up on one of them, so I'm just going to bend this one back down a little. And it's kind of cool because you can gauge it to the flight controller, the stack here, on if it's in the right position or not. That looks pretty good. So we're just going to check all 4 of them. Okay, so pretty resilient propellers as you can just bend back. Let me put in another battery. With that flight, since we used up the first battery for the line of sight, I was using one of these King Kongs that came with some of the other King Kong craft I'm reviewing, little micros. So this is a 350 35C 7.4 volt. So I think this is like 15 more C rating that can give it that power than the stock battery. So definitely get some of these types of batteries. Okay, new battery, and this little guy is so small and light that I'm tempted just to launch right here from my little box on my side. Let's launch from right there. Oh, switching in air mode. So I may have slightly unbalanced the propellers. You see how there's a little bit of more choppy waves there in the FPV. Woo! Sweet. Wow, it's got some power though. Whoa, let's hit that post. That metal post is like the killer of most of my race quads. Feels good. Wow. Wow, so I'm going way over in the parking lot. Look at that range, so excellent range here. I don't want to speak too soon and crash it. Let's go under this tree if we can. Whoa, right behind me. This is it, man. This is fun. Okay, guys, I can totally recommend this one. Go around the tree, let's see the break up. Oh, punch up. Yeah, so you're gonna get some break up with this monopole behind trees and stuff for sure. Keep that in mind. Let's go under the goal here. Woo! Wow, it's pretty locked in, rock solid, guys. A minute and 30 about, I'm hearing the low voltage initial warning. So you're gonna get about a minute and 30 flight time. See, my voltage is already 6. I want to drop it as soon as possible. Go ahead and land it. Oop, disarm. In air mode, if you land like that and you don't disarm, it's going to spaz out. Okay, really quick note, something else I noticed. If you notice the last couple flights, the video was really wobbling here. What happened was, in one of those crashes, the 2 side panels kind of separated and the light bar popped out. And so that made it really loose where it connects to the top of the stack. The camera module attaches, and so it was really loose and just shaking there. So all I did was push in the light module and it seems to be nice and solid again. So keep in mind there, maybe glue that together, or I don't know if you can put maybe another screw all the way through. It looks like, yeah, it looks like you can. Maybe this screw right here on the bottom, put in another brace all the way through there. Just make sure it doesn't short anything out. Anyway, just gonna keep flying. Hang in there if you want to see some more footage, or just skip to the end for the pros and cons. Alright, cool. So I think you guys can see what it can do on 2S. And like I was saying, I wanted to save it till the end, but here's a 3S little Nanotech 450 battery. It's a little big for this, I think, but let's just see if it can handle 4S. I may very well blow it up, but let's just give it a try. So far, so good. Wow. Too much power, I think. It's just spinning out. Let's try. I wonder if it'll do that in air mode. If we get it up real quick. Oh, yeah, it's not gonna work. Oh no, I cut my little launch pad. First battle scar. Okay, so 4S ain't gonna work. Maybe with some configuration, but I'm not gonna mess with it. So for now, out of the box, guys, it's a 2S beast. Let's go through some pros and cons. Okay, cool. So I've had the video of the FPV goggles here up on the screen, so you guys can see that. And I'm like really rusty with my racing FPV. I've been concentrating more on the like GPS kind of drones for a while, and so this is my first race in a couple months, little micro race drone. And I have to say, aside from that little problem with the FrSky receiver signal input on the wrong port, the PPM instead of the S bus, and me having to configure that, I'd say it's a solid little quad, man. You saw me ripping it around on the 2S. Of course, flight time is going to be the killer. It's only like 1.5 minutes usable flight time. So that's what I was getting out of it, and I was pushing it around pretty good. So expect maybe 1.5 minutes. It seems like after that, when it starts going into its really low voltage, it just starts doing like a low voltage cutoff and stuttering, and then it'll just drop out of the sky. So the FPV was pretty good for this little monopole in this park. No problem until I went around that tree, and then I had total cutout of video, and I just had to punch up, and then video came back and I could go around. But range was good. I went all the way into almost the other park over there. That's probably 300-400 feet away, and no dropouts whatsoever with this FrSky little micro receiver that it comes with. And you can get the option of different types of receivers when you order it. And really, I didn't do anything in Betaflight except the basic configurations and configuring my switches to what modes I wanted, what I wanted to have armed, and this low voltage beeper, and then just making sure it was set to S bus, and that's it. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.